Let's spread out a little bit. We're gonna go over some like fundamentals on like holding the red and what we're kind of looking for. Alright guys, really quick. The main benefit to this is because it's very long. Okay? It doesn't make any sense for me to use this to hit him here. Right? So I want to use all the length I have in the stick. So for you bigger guys, and depending on how your red is balanced, you don't necessarily need to grab it so wide. I've got a long handle. I can fight with it probably about here. Just so I can get the most of it, because the wider my hands go, if I can hit him here, my hands go wider, I lose inches. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? The wider your hands are, the less range you have. The stronger you are for sure, right? But the reds are getting so light, you don't have a light red by now. We want to make sure we're using as much range and we're using as much speed as possible. Okay? One of the big things defensively I like to teach is like a 4-block system, and it's not necessarily foolproof. But if we're here in this very neutral guard, pick whatever foot, whatever hand's forward, I'm going to cross my main hand over my body, call this 1, do the opposite, 2, now go diagonally down, 3, and then go back horizontal, 4. These will cover most of your blocks. Most of your close in blocks will be probably about there. So getting like a friend at home, they'll be like, okay, we're gonna go 1, 2, 3, block 1. Now block 2. Now block 3. Now block 4. Okay? And just drill those so you can get it like at least competent. You'll be able to do it very quickly. So you can go over those really quick. You gotta pick a fighting stance, pick whichever foot forward. 1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2.
Yeah.
You want to push it out a little bit more. So there you go.
I got a 65.
Catch the guard on either on your hands where your arm is.
Yeah, pop, pop, pop.
Which is better.
That's the bunch of hands are. Wrong one.
You want to push
So
out.
bring that right hand a little further out. There you go.
Ready? Here we go.
You don't want me to push through.
1, 2, 3, 3, 4. All right.
3 and 4.
This is 1. Right? Okay.
We're looking like block a leg shot, block like a low stab. Actually, yes. And so that knee bend is going to help a lot. Okay. Let's line up real quick. Come over here. Get my perspective. Come behind me. So we're gonna go over battlefield stuff and just like how we can like be effective, right? We can break boards, that's really cool, but if I go to break this guy's board, this guy, maybe gonna block this guy's gonna hit me though, right? This just happens every time, okay? So what I really want is I'm looking for these arms, okay? And either getting them, waiting for them to swing at my friends, or like finding really interesting ways. Like I can play with this guy, he's gonna block me out every time. Not so much this guy. Simply because I'm a little further this way. Cross shooting, especially with your 8-foots, is gonna be great. Taking a free leg, great. Free elbows, even better. Okay? Now, if I don't really have an option, a nice tricky shot, most people, if I throw down, they're gonna go hand, right? If I skip his hand, you see how his hand comes up?
Grave digger.
Not so much, but yeah. This is land. Just getting people trained. If I do this, boom, he's gonna block, boom, he's gonna block. And that's getting that accuracy to come back. Dropping your knees and getting this little pop up will help a lot. Because one of the most frustrating things is coming up to people who actually know how to block shit. As a red, you're like, ah, red, and I try to go like, board, oh, they get in the way, fuck, god damn it. I hate that shit. So now I'm gonna set him up, right? If he's gonna be very protective of his board, sick. Right? don't need to break his board. If I just remove, say I arm him now, sick. You're no longer a person. Like I don't have to worry about him anymore. If I can take the weapons, same thing. Want to step forward? Get in between them. Pretend like you're a spear. If I somehow like get in here and I go whang and I nick his arm, and he's a spear fighter, and now I wear chain or whatever, or wear armor. I suggest you to wear armor if you're on the battlefield. It's okay. This person does not exist. I don't care what they're doing now. They can't hurt me because I'm wearing armor now. So now I just got to step up. They can do whatever. I'm just gonna fight these guys now. And now this guy's just in the way with his equipment. Armor. Right? All day. So if you can try to hit that spear arm, it'd be great. Now, step forward a little bit. You two evaporate. Pretend like you're using a spear. Okay? Yeah. Point it a little, half a little lower, point at me. This is very intimidating for the shorter red fighters because like they can respond very quickly as I'm trying to do stuff and stab me. Drop the tip just a little bit. Okay. One quick trick is we're gonna go down, chop down, scoot in, and flip up. Okay? So I'm gonna chop down, scoot in, flip up, and now that spear's like way in the air, and I can now step in, and now they have to scoot back to bring their spear back into play. Yeah. Does that make sense? And sometimes for extra points, you can make them hit their friends. Okay? So that's a really quick, just like a simple technique to do. You just come in and try to nick something and make this fight a little easier. Does that make sense? And that's what we're looking for. Put your dozer on. Spears, worst nightmare for a lot of us guys. Keeping your hands in this like center grip. Once you present your stab tip, keeping your hands in the center grip and just trying to stick your hands in the way of the spearhead. Some of them are really bulky. And just trying to get them to like mess up and maybe slide off me or something like that, so I can come back and hit him with his arm. For like 6 foot versus like 8 foot like this, it's really a matter of just this. It's just this one step to make up for how many feet they have. And I want them to try to stab, 100%. It's the only way I'm gonna kill them. Because if they just hold it at me and I don't do anything, I'm useless. I might as well be dead. And at the same time, be nice to your friends. If I have another spearman here, pretend you're a spear, and you've got the same range, and I do this, I'm just gonna hold it here, let him kill him. Be effective, right? You don't have to get every kill. I'll just chop down all the spears, my spears gets a stab all willy-nilly, it's great, it's a good time. I also really like, come forward, say they're fighting together, your equipment's over there, and you like rush in to fight this guy. He's gonna cross, right? It doesn't matter. He's gonna cross, right? Just leave the stick here. Yeah. Right? Even if this guy's a boardman and he's fighting this guy, I'll leave my stick here, and if he tries to hit to the board, I'll just block stuff. Just randomly blocking things, making people's lives difficult, will be super effective. Don't necessarily need to kill everybody. Dozer stuff. If you don't know the style, it's one of the most effective styles. I use it, and it's very annoying to fight against, even as a user of it, right? Because this board effectively delays all my effective fighting. And trying to get to this back arm, it's very easy to do that one block. So it like, I have no option here because he just hits me back. I get blocked out and he block strikes me. Very annoying. We're usually looking for like a torso shot or like try to get lucky. Much more effective. It's gonna be the same concept as before. If I come in, he one blocks, sit. Everybody goes for that crossback. Very easy, very safe. I don't have to expose myself. Now he's armed and now he's just dead at my whim. Does that make sense? Very easy and quick kind of, I don't know, game cheat codes, I guess, game codes. Any questions on those? Do we want to practice those? Anyone want to partner up and practice them? Okay, let's do it. One person attacking, one person defending. All you gotta do is hold your sword out, let the opponent hit you once, go for the hit again, miss, and then come up into the arm. That's all you gotta do. Does that make sense? So we're gonna do it one-handed, right? We'll just start out one-handed. Pick this up on all the bottom. And just do that. You can hold it. There. Pretend like he just has a flute.
Yeah.
And we're just gonna cross out.
Walk like this. Walk like this.
That'll be much easier. Most of the time, they're blocking out like this. So when you come out in this, yeah, well, we're aiming for this hand. So they're a right-handed boardman. You will pretend, right?
Right.
Does that make sense?
Right. That makes sense. So you come up and
You can grab your chair.
Oh, sorry.
You're good.
So you're gonna go on the same side.
As long as you're on the right.
Well, most people don't do it.
Like, if I'm like this, I have
Block,
right.
block, but
I
no.
have to fight for. I have to get still.
Same side. Because they're gonna go to
Probably out against the board, right? Try that. I know it's a little different switching up your grip and stuff. But try
Well,
to get the
I
most
started
out of it.
here and I kept
Try to get the most out of the stick.
right.
Just one of
Hold it at the end of the palm. Okay, so it doesn't mess it up. Yep. You can even step that way a little bit. For him, you want to step this way, right? He wants to be on the right hand of the target. You're swinging it. Yeah. You want to be on the right hand of the target. Be on this side, right? So chop here, chop to the hand, chop to the hand, boop, boop, and then now next time miss. And then come up. There you go. I'm here. Trying to sell it.
What's up, sir?
What's up?
So soon?
Maybe. Go ahead.
Whichever. Like I can do it.
Okay, so hold out like you're holding the blue, whatever. We're gonna come out here, right? You're kind of like crossing this big, whatever. Keep it nice and straight, nice and tall. You just do this. And miss with the last one. We're looking for this miss. We can even take a step to get like just a little better. Word. Does that make sense? And you also want to be on the right side of it, of his hand.
Oh, yeah, you want to outflank the arm.
There you go.
I guess I was like making it.
Yeah. I mean, you're trying to be sneaky about it. So if you go like with the
Turn. If you do that,
yeah, I've always thought.
if you finish your turn, then we're trying to stay very safe. So that you still got blocked, right?
Draw, like if the tip of the sword you like to do, draw.
I mean, general health is good, right? You can do like, there's a thing called 5x5s that I highly recommend. And it's, your wife does 5x5s? Yeah.
And they're terrible.
Yeah, they suck. But, I mean, as far as like actual red fighting, I mean, practice how you're gonna do it. Take the fucking barbell and pick that shit up like this. You know what I mean? Or really practice this. Crunches, core strength, because when you're sending a lot of heavy reds, you don't want to just do this. A lot of it is like crunching and squatting, twists, all that kind of thing. Building up your back. Huh?
Make love.
Oh, hey man. All right, guys, let's bring it in. How did that feel, guys? Feel like a decent tool in the toolbox to practice later? Give you some ideas whenever you're fighting somebody? We're gonna go over the dreaded red v board. Okay? They hate it, we hate it. It sucks. The dozer provides a lot of power in this moment. Because if turn and face each other. The dozer basically makes the high cross not a valid target, right? Because then we're just gonna go to board, right? It just doesn't do anything. So why bother, right? Which then creates just the regular wrap shot or the chop to this side, right here, right? So it makes it the popular shot, right? This is probably going to be more for the smaller red fighters, smaller reds. It'll still work with a pull. You're just not going to find yourself in that situation as often. It's a little harder to pull off. So if I'm fighting here, say I have my dozer, they're not going to cross on me. These are a little light. He's blocking me out. He's not going to let me hit a leg or something. And they finally get to step in, right? So I get to go to 2, right? It's easy 2 block. What I like to do is take the step out because I don't have a dozer here, right? He can't really do anything. I'm tucked away behind this. Even if he like tried to big old wrap, he's not getting anywhere, right? Taking this to 2, go ahead. Everyone know what block strike is? Cool. Block, strike. Easy, right? They'll fall for it every time. Like, unfortunately, your stick's not so good for it.
Yeah.
Maybe they're not paying attention. We'll hope for it. But yeah. But if they're going to be the very aggressive boards, which most people will be, just playing on this really lengthy kind of like trying to get him to do something, they'll finally step really hard. If I overstep, they'll come in, and all I got to do is turn, regular chop, turn, and I hit that back. That's it, right? And I'm safe with the dozer. I'm safe here every time. It's all about that timing. Another really cool shot that takes a little more to it, pulling people's equipment out of the normal area is going to be good in every weapon style, okay? If I want to hit him in the shoulder, I got to get him to move the board, okay? In what instances can we get him to move the board? Usually when we throw for a leg, usually we can get him to go to this hip sometimes to block the board. If they're very disciplined, they'll use their hand, great. We have a shot for that now, right? So if they decide, if we hit them 6 times with that, right? They're not gonna wanna use their hand anymore, right? Cool, sick. Now they're gonna move their board, right? Shoulder opens, okay? If we get very aggressive and like, get to that shoulder, there's one part of this physics that needs to make sense to all of you. Move your board down. I can see his shoulder, right? Flip that way. Face 180. The shoulder can be seen, but I'm not hitting the shoulder. The pommel has to go up. The pommel has to be above the blocking implement to get to the target behind the blocking implement. Okay? It's a straight stick. It'll flex a little bit, but it needs to be high. So when we go for these hot, and it's going to be mostly affecting us short guys because we're like, man, I can see the shoulder. There's no way I'm not hitting it. He's sloughing people. Nope, your backhand is just too low. So when he drops that shoulder and I bring this up, it hits every time. Like this, it doesn't ever hit. Okay? So just to get him to move the board, when it come in, stand up. And this is a very simple chop. And we just bring our hands up. Does that make sense? You don't have to let go. Just keep your hands up and keep it up. Make sure we're standing up. What's up? Oh, man, dude, you're making this complicated. Fight with your right hand on top. This also depends on what side you want your dozer on, right? There's options here for lefties. If I still have my dozer on my right hand, I call it like tabletop red, where say I step in and I table my board up, and they either have to deal with my red or they're gonna try to cross. And if they try to cross, right? So I'm just gonna sit here and either hit him or red his board down, and I can tabletop this red, and he's just gotta make a decision. And even when he does that, we have an option, right? Does that make sense? You lefty people. I'm always gonna tell you to aim for the weak side. This is your weak side when you're a boardman. It's the sword side, because you have less defense here. If I were to put a board on my left hand, I'd be kind of weird to just be here. You could probably have a little time here and do that same kind of tabletop concept and just sit here and go. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
The only problem with it is my hip's a little closer.
Yeah.
And I can go this way, and that kind of exposes my gut a little bit, depending on how your dome is or your board. But if you're left-handed, just focus on fighting this hand. Most of the stuff still works with your left hand.
Oh yeah.
I'm a little awkward with it. Any other questions? Is that cool? Okay. Red users don't use stabs or the backside of their blades enough. Okay? If I can get him to move that board over just a tad, this hits his butt. Almost every time, right? And either on the battlefield, which is probably more when it's gonna happen, I can use that same concept of like, does that make sense? Especially if you have armor. I'll trade an armor piece for a butt shot all day, right? Free stabs, one-handed stabs, one-handed casts on the battlefield are great. Just taking this fucking leg before he even starts running at me, great. Now I can just get to red you to death. Ooh, I'm a genius. Any other hard scenarios with a board?
So I always die because they'll like close the gap and rush in on me.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I start freezing up like it's Fortnite and then I suck and
You gotta
die.
practice.
What do you do if they're like rushing in on you? Because I can't backpedal fast.
Sure.
You just,
We gotta fight, right?
yeah.
One, it's punishing. We can't let them close for free, right? So every time I swing this, I need to take something, either a board point or a limb. Getting blocked out while they're running at me, no bueno, right? That's why we try not to throw repetitive shots unless it's to the board and we can beat them on the time, or we go to that combo, or send it to the leg like cool, sick, you know. One of the things I like to tell people is not and to practice certain moves, because once he started closing at me, I get 1 or 2 good steps where I can keep pace. After that, he's gonna start outstriding me, and you'll lose that gap fight. So those 2 steps, you gotta be able to throw at least 2 or 3 shots. You gotta make them count, right? Usually, if I'm freaking out, I'm gonna go for a leg just to get him to stop, because most people either stop to block or take the leg. Great. The other option for you bigger people, just check the shit out of them. That's been my favorite answer every time. And I do it, it happens. Like 90% of people eat dirt, even if they're bigger than me.
He is stouter than you look.
Work out a little bit. A lot of it's timing too, right? If he takes a step right, and in that transition, before he finishes that step, I can push him over. Like mid-step, it's pretty easy. And so we can take that counter step, run at me, right? And most of the time, once you're on that back foot, anything that comes out of there is gonna be kind of light. Woohoo, dag bell, right? So there's options there. The other option is just get very defensive. This is a wall. He can't hit me on the other side of it. If he's just gonna chop out here or even wrap, as long as I have this far enough away from me, he's just never gonna hit me. So I'm just gonna hold it here, and I'm gonna have my dozer, if you have a dozer or not, and I'm just gonna hold it. Okay, cool. All right, we're just gonna sit here. Sick, awesome. Somebody else kill this guy. You know what I mean? But you see how that sets up what I just talked about earlier. Does that make sense? Does that help?
I have my shoulder shield on the wrong shoulder, and I will fix it as soon as you tell me something else.
That's something that I've kind of picked. Pick a shoulder and learn the weaknesses and benefits of it. Because I've seen very great fighters use both. So I can't really tell you it's the wrong shoulder. Just give up. I'm gonna be honest with you, and it's a little harder when I have my dozer. It's just very hard to switch. It's very difficult because now we got to switch it to the entire side, right? The concept is still, yeah. And well, most of the time you ain't got time for that, right? Like you're either in a tournament or we're on the battlefield, whatever. I either don't fight that guy, or gal, or whoever the lefty non-human person is, or just try to take a leg and leave him for someone else, right? Because if I have my dozer on this side trying to do the same thing, they're just going to cross me, right? Or I try to set up the cross, because now they want to cross. They don't want to do the typical lefty wrap, hip wrap thing, right? Because now I have a board on this side, so it's disadvantageous. So I'll just keep this here, because now I don't want to let him cross. Because if he keeps stepping at me, if I leave my sword over here, he can't cross anymore. There's no point, because he's just going to run into my sword. But what happens when he crosses? Turn this way. What happens when he crosses? That elbow comes out. You gotta wait. You have to. It's counterintuitive, but just leaving your sword out here lets them not. Doesn't let them cross, or doesn't let them just hip wrap, and they have to cross now. It's the only way they fight them. You just run backwards until they finally expose that elbow. They have to leave their shield to hit you. And if you know what they're gonna do, you can make a plan for it. The other option is machine gun shots into the leg. Because they're gonna block you, right? They have to. If they don't, if they're like doing something, they die. The other part is something I hadn't talked about, is countering shots with shots, if that makes sense. Go ahead and switch back. It's better on a right-handed person, but it'll work on a left-handed person. Leverage, right? I got two hands, I got a big-ass stick, he's got one hand, he's got a baby stick, right? If he throws a chop to this hand, right? Boom, hits my forearm. See? Do it again. Didn't even touch me. Go ahead. I win this every time. I even sometimes take arm. Hand. Arm that time. Right? Just hitting his shit out of his equipment is gonna work good. People gonna look at you weird? Absolutely. Just make sure you call your blocks. Right? Because it looks weird. Some of those look like they hit me. But you can hear it between like flesh or garb and my gloves, right? This is an invaluable kind of thing that people who want to play on the outside, because when I have my dozer, everyone wants to go on the outside. And people who are really fast, I may not necessarily have time to come in because they're going to be like, oh, he's going for that block, stab. Oh, fuck, okay, cool. But just countering shots with that, you hit me that time. Also stepping, right? Countering shots with like chops. And not necessarily trying to focus on hitting him, but definitely trying to hit like this part of his sword on the inside, because hold your sword up, because he cannot stop me. He does not have the strength to stop me. Nobody does. Not a single person. You take the smallest person and the biggest person, they can just make him do this. Does that make sense? Yeah, absolutely. You just chop the inside of it and just let them kill themselves. And if you can knock the sword out of their hand, it's a completely valid thing, right? Trying to be nice to our friends and not hurt them, as red safety things. Any other hard situations? I want to answer little things that I know. This is a terrible red class because I don't do a lot of red, but I like using a lot of red, but I have come up with my own foundation.
More situations where you counter a shot with a shot.
Counter a shot with a shot?
Yeah.
So there's
what you're talking about.
Yeah.
More situations.
I mean, you can do it with reds, right? Yeah. Go ahead and pick a red. There's a thing called German master strikes. Okay? Yeah. It's the exact same thing where you block and throw at the same time, or set you up for a good stab after, right? A lot of these come from like high guard, house, and ox, and I'm not very good at that part. But say he throws it across to this left shoulder, right? What I can do is if he does it again, does that make sense? I can try to counter, basically trying to come in at a cross and get the better angle. Does that make sense? Chopping straight down. There's a motion here where you come in and stab. You're gonna have to look it up, but those are motions that we learned at SKBC, I think 3 years ago. And some of you who study German master strikes, it'll answer your question for red shots. Anything else for hard situations? We'll go over red specific duelings here in a second, because that's a whole different book.
Really dense lines, like a bridge battle or whatever. Shitload of spears, archers, whatever. You've got like a mid-red.
Get a longer red. Don't be afraid to just go to lot. You know what I mean? Usually these big fields have plenty of little pockets to fight in. If you're gonna be like a 6 foot or under red, either you're light on armor or don't have a dozer, you have to pick your fights. Unless you're just gonna run in and die a bunch of times and you're okay having fun that way. I don't. I kind of like to be a little effective. And just finding spots where there's like 3 boards next to each other and not a spear. I mean, I'll take the risk if there's an archer in that direction. Fine, cool. I get at least 5 seconds of hitting people. To like break a red, take an arm, take a leg, being effective with what you have. So pick smart fights in that situation. Unless you just want to gas yourself. Anything else? Sick. Okay, cool. We're gonna go to red duel. Okay. This is gonna be more for tournament fighting. You got your 6 foot. This is gonna be the exact opposite on how I fight other equipment on the field. I'm gonna use every inch of this stick in this fight. This is what I want, right? I want to use that very tip. I never want to get close to you because I'm shorter than most people, and I'm gonna try to exploit the range I have. And in tournaments, I go for the longest stick I can get. At 65, I'm at 65. One of the great things that we can work on is stabbing with your left hand or whatever your bottom hand is. Because stabbing with this hand just doesn't make any sense. You gain no range out of it. But I gain a lot of range with my left hand, and even switching feet, I'll gain a lot of range. If I can get a free stab in, sick. Because he may not let me chop him there because he's gonna move, right? But sometimes I can get the stab just fine, right? A lot of stabbing fundamentals is making perpendicular angles. Okay? If he's right foot forward, right? This isn't necessarily a good stabbing angle because I'm gonna have the chance of sliding off his blocks or off his torso and not sticking him with a perpendicular angle. Does that make sense? So one of my favorite moves is it a Monet? Molinet? It's like a Molinet, I believe the term. It's a really fundamental fencing move where you take this left foot over the middle line, present your palm to the sky, and send it forward. You see how my sword is now perpendicular to his shoulders? Unless he completely blocks me out, but if I get there before he gets the block back in, and even if he pulls it, I land somewhere. Okay? Does that make sense? It's going to be a little better for the lighter reds, the longer reds. It's totally possible. I've done it. You can do it. But that's this nice step here. And even if I miss, right? If I outrange it or whatever, and he comes and chops down at me, it's fine. Right? I didn't like run in here and like get blocked out and just get fucking smoked, right? Less risky. I get to do it again. Right? I missed. Okay, cool. I get to roll the dice again. Hit him that time, right? Great. Trying to get, and this is going to go back to the fundamentals of moving their equipment. If we're here in neutral, and I throw a direct chop this way, it makes them move, right? And if I do that again, and if he catches a hand block, I have a decent block here. Either step in, step away. It's always putting your equipment in a good strike, but also in a good block the split second after. Trying to get to it. Okay. Very simple blade beats. I like to annoy people with this kind of motion because because it makes him do that. Did you see what he did? He moved his equipment back because he anticipated me hitting him, right? I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that. You saw that? I could have easily hit him, right? He's gonna move his equipment back. Sick. Making people very impatient in tournaments is gonna make them like mess up. Okay? Because that's very safe. I'm never dying here. Right? Doing those fake shots into like real ones because he's gonna go block, right? Can be good. But in this situation, I'm a little on the weaker side because now I don't have a block. Does that make sense? So it's one of those Hail Marys. In tournaments, I don't really want to do Hail Marys with red because if you miss, you're pretty much dead every time. It's not really like sword and board where you can get away with kind of doing dumb stuff.
Instead of a rising shot like this, you do rising like that. Is that maybe you're going to be a little more defensive?
I don't, but you totally could. You know what I mean? Or stepping. My preferred initiation to that would be stepping here. Because now I put my wall, right? And I still have this great hand. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And it's bringing this, going to 2, our block fundamental, right? Going to 2 and being at this superior angle because now my elbow is behind my sword. Does that make sense? It gets a little funky because some people want to like do this, but if you keep your hands closer together, this is all going to be easier to do. Does that make sense?
There's something I want to ask you about, like a certain type of thing that I found work quite well with some people in my field.
Yeah.
A clutch that where you pull back into the thrust
Absolutely.
to provoke a guard, and then
That works great with board because, like, again, it goes back to the fundamental of making them do something I know they're gonna do. Because now I can tell the future and I can hit you. And whoever you're fighting, if they respond to something and they do it every time, that's gonna be a great setup for anything. SKBC, we got taught a weapon or a shot kind of similar to that. Grab your board. It's a little weird. I've landed a couple times, but it's like you have to really land it on people who are not all that paying attention. And it probably works better with like a much longer red. Because if I do that with a shorter red, they're just gonna hit me. And one of the things is like starting way up here. Because most people reflex, if I bring this in, they're gonna want to check it with their board, right? It's gonna be a little too heavy and it's hard to cross block, right? So what ends up happening, they end up changing the board. Does that make sense? Because they're gonna leave the board with it. And this was very little forward. They just have to turn a little bit. Make sense? Does that help?
yes, yeah.
Great implementation. There's a concept for LARP fighting, and it's like doing circles, okay, especially in forward. Because if we're neutral, right? If I can hit him, he can hit me, and I take my step this way, he can no longer hit me. I can hit him. I even got deeper. Does that make sense? It's this weird thing on how circles work, because I'm bringing your weapons originate from your shoulders. Okay? If I can bring my shoulder closer, my effective range gets longer. Okay? So either stepping left or stepping right, whichever foot is front, is going to be best advantageous. And so you'll see a lot of fighting of people circling this way because they get more success, but they don't understand why. Okay? Stepping to your main foot side increases your range. It also decreases their defense, right? And that's one concept to work on with, like, especially like boards, because boards are ultimately, unless you have a dome, but we're not going to get into domes. 2D shapes. Give me that. The board is the 2D shape. This is its strongest like form, right? The most surface area that's presenting. Trying to fight this is not so good. If I take this step this way and he stays wherever he's at, okay, freeze. Sick. If I take this step, the shield effectively gets a little smaller because my view of it gets smaller, and the same shot lands better. Does that make sense? That's why when people tell you like don't fight so laterally, is that you're leaning into the regular fighting of this board. If I step laterally, I get more advantageous shots. Does that all make sense? I know this is kind of everywhere and a lot of information, but I'm really autistic. It's a requirement to be a warlord if you didn't know. Any other weird situations that I can give some insight on? I am still very early on in my red fighting and learning. I'm not anywhere awesome. I just took a lot of my fundamentals and brought it over to red, and it's been really successful. Good?
Do you ever spin? I never see you spin, I feel like, when you're
No, not really. It happens a couple times. I mean, mainly because I spin into my left side, and with my right hand up front, this doesn't really like give me an advantageous situation. For that, I would probably switch my hands and like just try to like step away from them. Hit something kind of weird. The other thing with it is that too many red fighters leave their red out here this way. And instead of just like keeping it tight to spin faster and then letting it go there. That'll be much faster. And always go low with your spins. Just keep it low. All right.
For Jesus.
Who wants the red sport now?
What?
All right. Let's do it.